My mom shot herself in the head. And my younger brother drank Coke that he had laced with strychnine.
When I got the news about Sandy, I drove directly to Dodie's house.
My grandma came home. My mom was living at her house when she was getting divorced from my stepdad. And so my mom was going to like remedial school classes to get secretarial training, and my grandma went out to get her hair done, and when she came back my mom's car was still there, so she knew there was something wrong. So she went upstairs to the room where my mom was staying and she found her.
Dodie and me went over. Dodie was Sandy's mother. I believe the two of us went over there.
And they knocked on the front door, and I saw them through the front peephole and knew right then something was really bad.
I just didn't want to do it. I knew that it was going to be traumatic and shocking, and I didn't want to be the person telling her.
I opened the door before they even knocked again or anything, and I just started saying, tell me what's wrong, tell me what's wrong. Is it mom or is it Adam? Because I thought it was either my son or my mom. My grandma said, it's your mom. Vince said, it's your mom. It was basically just a mess. It was just a big, huge mess. It was so huge. It was like...
They said, oh, there's been an accident. They said Sandy Clovis has committed suicide. And the first words out of my mouth were, well, is she okay?
Shock. You can't imagine. And you've never lived through anything like that.
I think that her point of view from her mother committing suicide, they abandoned you for whatever reason. You weren't good enough for them to want to stay alive.
And so desperate that this would be the only thing they could think of, and they couldn't pick up the fucking phone and call somebody, And that's a piece of the anger that's still there, right? It's like the intimate things that she shared with her daughter and with me about her thoughts, but she couldn't pick up the phone and fucking call us. I just, that makes me really angry.
I used to, for years and years and years, just be furious with her for leaving everybody and not have any sense that any pain could justify the wreckage. But now I feel like it's not my deal to judge her. I mean, that's just what she did, and I think she didn't know any better. My stepdad called one day, same thing, like in the middle of the morning. I got this call. We were estranged at the time, so it was odd that he called, and instantly there's something wrong. That he called and let me know that Danny had killed himself.
I kind of remember Danny being a little troubled.
Empirically or unemotionally, when you look at it, you say, oh gosh, here's this 18-year-old kid whose father was a drunk. He's probably not going to be of the best mental health.
I'm not angry at Danny because I feel like when you're 14 years old, when your mom kills herself, what chance do you have of feeling like you should stay?
Very, very sad, and maybe a tinge of guilt.
Danny's feeling was terrible, terrible, terrible. He's somebody that I'm supposed to protect, and to have him quit makes you feel like just a failure.
I certainly think she constantly wonders and searches about whether or not there was some missed opportunity, time she could have spent, something she could have done. There's no doubt that nags at her.
Every once in a while I think about that, and I think, what could I have done? And you think about everything you ever said that the person could have interpreted as a negative. It was out of straw, And I think everybody who probably came in contact with him and who cared about him probably has things that they did that they wish they hadn't, or wondered if they contributed in some way.
Danny left a note, but I never saw it. My stepdad had it and I never saw it. He said that Danny felt bad. He said, I'm just a fuck up, and that's it.
Anyone who thinks that there aren't consequences beyond the fact that you've ended your own life, I mean, that is silly.
If I think about it and it comes up and I hear about a suicide, like, and I don't, I can tell you that sitting here and asking, answering these questions is making me really uncomfortable. Because I'm having to think, about Danny in particular, and, also Sandy, because I think back of when, Sandy was a happier person.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry if there's anything that I did or didn't do that could have helped you or eased your pain.
She wish she could help him, wish they would have reached out, wish that she spent more time with him.
She'll just always remember, have that sad feeling about it.
I remember feeling like embarrassed. Like it's a freakish thing to have happen. That this person has killed themselves and nobody even really understands why.
I would expect that since it had such a profound effect on her that she wouldn't do that to us.
For years and years, after I had like the breakdown, when I finally broke through the glass wall and went through the whole grief process, I was terrified of committing suicide myself. I felt like there was this suicide boogeyman that came up and got you and shook you and made you commit suicide. Because otherwise, why would my mom have killed herself? So like, I couldn't walk across the Golden Gate Bridge. I would never would I ever touch a gun, because if you had a gun in your hand, you could kill yourself. So for years, I was terrified of the suicide boogeyman. And then it got bad again for me when I was in the same year in my life that she was when she killed herself. So when I was working up to being 43, I also got more afraid. Then I got to be 44 and older, so no suicide boogeyman.
Is there a tiny fraction of whatever motivated them? Is it in her or is it in either of her kids?
I feel so guilty for what must have happened to my kids when they were little, having a mom who was processing this grief and being, I'm guessing, fairly emotionally unavailable.
Mental illness does, in fact, run in people's families. It is genetic. And I do think of suicide as a mental illness, and it has always been a fear of mine, of my children, but they appear to be very, very strong-willed and egocentric enough not to be worried about that now.
What it has taught me as a parent is don't commit suicide. Being here is very important. Basically that's it. That's the message. Being here is very important. You can love somebody so much and you can't keep them from doing something like that. No matter how hard you try and how much you love them and how much you want them to be around, you really can't protect them. You can't keep things from happening.
Tamara is much more focused on thinking about what every day means. I think she's much more attuned than the average person to the significance of being alive.
I mean, it probably affects mom's entire life as a transformative event, or transformative events over 4 or 5 years, and probably a huge part of who she is.
So if you were to say, like, this is what I've experienced when you've been gone, when you left me, what would it be?
It would be my kids, definitely. It would be like, look at your fabulous relatives and like see, like not like see you're missing this, you bad people, not that, but like see this things turn out, like look, even though you were so sad, like look, these really good things still happen. So if you're still feeling sad wherever you are, don't feel sad, because there's these really good things.